Hello and welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. My name is Sam McNaughton and today I'm very pleased to be joined by Adam Holt, who is the Director of Sales Engineering for the UK and Ireland at BlueVoyant. Adam, thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, thank you.
So purpose of this episode is to be talking around the soft and hard skills required to get into sales engineering. Before we get into that, just thought we'd talk about yourself, Adam. So I wonder if you could give us kind of a brief introduction in terms of kind of what your role is at BlueVoyant and kind of a bit of an idea in terms of what BlueVoyant do as well.
Yeah, sure. Cheers, Sam. So I'm Adam. I lead the sales engineering team here at BlueVoyant. I've got a series of people working with me with a wide variety of skills in the cyberspace that we've kind of specially put together to complement what BlueVoyant does as an organization. So first and foremost, we have three main areas that we focus on. Focus on internal cybersecurity, which is all around managed detection and response, so managed service offerings on technologies such as Microsoft and Splunk. And we also have what we call some external security services. One which is what we call a first-party risk solution, so digital risk protection. We also have a third-party risk solution, which is called supply chain defense. And then all of that is glued together by our professional services team.
Fantastic. So kind of your role then, you're very much looking over that whole team kind of in the UK, then that's kind of your responsibility.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. So kind of how did you kind of move into that position then?
Yeah, so in my previous organization, I was working for a very, very large organization. And the nature of what we was doing, the gap, and I know we're going to get onto this a little bit later in the call, the gap between sales and how we was scoping and pulling proposals together was becoming very much closer together due to the specialism of the work that we was doing. So I naturally kind of just kind of fell into more of a pre-sales practice lead kind of the role was, and got a bit of a flavour for it. I really enjoyed being on the pre-sales side of things rather than just constantly being on the delivery side of things. And then I decided that it was time for a change, and I wanted to kind of really kind of move into more of a pre-sales solution architecture role with 100% dedication on that, rather than it being more of a 50-50 hybrid split.
Yeah. Okay, and then that move into that leadership position, how did you find that kind of change between being an IC and then going into that leadership position?
Yeah, sure. So I guess again, my previous organisation, it was just kind of pushed on me that I was the most senior person within that team with the experience. It was just natural that I was the one who had to kind of start shaping and sizing some of these opportunities and then building the offerings and team around that. And then moving here was one of the main attractions that was kind of coming and into a startup organization, which was something I was really looking for pre-IPO, and have the ability to really build and shape something and have a real impact on that, rather than being part of the huge cog where your impact is less, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you've got more of an impact on that organisation. You're not just a cog in the machine. You're actually able to, your word has a bit of weight behind it instead of it just being, it's just thrown away in a sense.
100%, and having the ability to really influence that change as well, and where you can bring your experiences and I guess in some scenarios things that have worked well and things that haven't necessarily worked well, and being able to influence that into a product and into a business that you're going out to market with was something which really appealed to me.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so in terms of kind of getting into your position and kind of that transition that you've gone through, kind of the soft skills then required, do you think there are kind of specific soft skills that kind of are really influential in terms of when people are looking to get into sales engineering?
100%. So, I mean, qualifications are really important, but for me they're not the primary thing which I look for when we're going to market and recruiting. So communication is the first and foremost. So when I'm interviewing, I think I probably spend the first interview, like, we don't even speak around technical things. We just have a general chat. Can you communicate? Like, people buy from people, and that's something I say on a daily basis. So actually having that ability to speak normally. I mean, me and you were speaking just before we started this, and having that ability to just actually crack open a conversation, not just going straight into the weeds of it, understand a little bit about them, taking a bit of an interest in the wider things, rather than just honing straight into a technical requirement. So communication is certainly key.
Yeah, and I think especially it's infosec this week. That's key. Those going to infosec have to have that kind of communication to be able to talk to people and kind of break that ice instead of being that kind of awkward kind of salesperson that kind of waits for people to come over to them.
100%. Kind of almost been a little bit. No, it's fine. Like being a little bit of an extrovert, kind of putting yourself out there, having that charisma almost, and that ability to kind of put yourself out there and, like I say, not just wait for people to come to you, but actually being able to go and start that and initiate that, those conversations is something which is super important, especially at things like infosec.
Yeah. So kind of apart from communication, then what kind of other ones would you say are really key?
I think determination is important. I think one of the things which really appealed to me in this kind of type of role is I'm super competitive as an individual, right through, I guess, my childhood from playing sport. And I think sales obviously is a natural, I guess, progression to that, because obviously that is a very competitive space. And look, everyone wants to win. So I think having that kind of mentality is really, really key. But also having the ability to not just work hard, but also having the ability to know when to switch off and when you need to take a break, because it's very easy to get bogged down in RFPs and constant, we've got this much pipeline, but also knowing when to actually have a break and come back refreshed and rejuvenated is also very important. Yeah,
and kind of you speak about kind of that sport background. I mean, very, very similar for myself, but kind of moving into that sales aspect, there's a lot of people who have background in sports. There's a lot of transferable kind of soft skills from that, whether it be like that teamwork or that communication that comes from sport. Do you think that's kind of a big thing?
100%. I think you hit the two on the head, like on communication, leadership, management of things. We can think of that in a game of football or rugby, and how we'd transfer that into, I guess, an opportunity we're doing, or even managing a recruitment perspective from yourself. It's all very important and transferable. So I do believe that the competitive nature of what we do which was instilled in me as a young person kind of playing sport has been a really important part of who I am today and where I've got to in my career because of that.
Yeah, especially when you're trying to fight for a client or a customer, you want to win it. It's that thing that's kind of instilled from you from a young age, isn't it?
100%. And then also, I guess, taking it one step further, like from progression as well, like kind of not just being happy, kind of just kind of ticking along, but also having that desire and that determination to continue succeeding, going up the ladder, or whether it's not just being comfortable, actually moving into like a new role where you're really going to challenge yourself as well.
Yeah, and I suppose adaptability kind of comes into it as well, kind of putting yourself in kind of not necessarily awkward situations, but situations you might not necessarily be comfortable with. How kind of key is it for kind of a sales engineer to be able to adapt to different situations?
Oh yes, it's super important. Having thick skin, I say, is also quite an interesting way to look at things. There's always going to be someone who's got some questions which aren't maybe as relevant as you think they may be, or they're trying to catch you out. So having that ability to actually, someone once said to me earlier in my career that no one knows everything and no one's expected to know everything, but actually having the confidence to take a step back and say, well, I don't know that, but I know where to find the answer. I'll find the answer for you. In my opinion, also shows a lot of maturity in terms of that response, rather than just trying to blag it and saying yes to everything. Also saying I don't know, or actually saying no, we don't do that, or no, that's not correct, also is a very powerful message.
Yeah, it takes a lot more confidence to kind of say I don't know the answer than just trying to lie about it, and it catches you out down the end.
Yeah, for sure.
So in terms of kind of another soft skill, then in terms of time management, how important is that for you, kind of as a leader, for kind of your team to very much be able to manage their time properly?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I guess I'm sure some of my guys are probably going to comment on this video when it goes live, but I guess as a leader, I'm certainly not the most organized leader. Being open and honest, that's not kind of my way, but I'm certainly a leader which has got my team's back, and I'm kind of fighting in the trenches with them, involved in the deals rather than kind of building that empire and trying to just manage, if that makes sense. I really want to be a player manager, if that makes sense. But yeah, time management is crucial. I think we spoke about it a little bit earlier around knowing when to kind of take a break. That's the angle I look at it from. Obviously, sometimes when we've got peaks and troughs in work in terms of RFPs and all the types of work that we get involved in, but knowing when to and how to manage that as well, and also having the ability to, and that's something where we've got a fantastic team here where we know we can kind of back work off onto the team rather than just thinking, oh God, I need to take all this on. I've got X amount of days to get X amount of work done, where we can actually share the load. And that's where that real team ethos, which has been something which I've really tried to build here, comes into the benefits of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, then. So in terms of their kind of the soft skills, then in terms of kind of the hard skills, then whether it be courses or qualifications or even languages, and we kind of spoke about experience as well as a hard skill. How important are they for you, and kind of where do they rank in terms of importance?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I guess speaking personally, experience is something I really care about. Has been someone which I would like to say relatively young. I would rather have someone in my team or in general which has got, say, 5 to 7 years super relevant experience rather than someone who's got 20 or 25 years experience in general IT or been in the field, because if that's not relatable to what we're doing, then how is that beneficial? Again, courses, obviously there's lots of opinions on all this type of stuff. Myself, I mean, I am academic I come from an academic background, should I say. I think there is a lot more to doing just getting numbers and letters after your name, because it's having that ability to apply that knowledge. So whilst it is key, the experience also plays a huge part in it, but it is a catch-22, right? Because without the experience, how do you then get that first chance? So you are required for someone to kind of take a punt. And yeah, you can have all the courses in the world, but without the experience, but then if you flip it on the head as well, if you've got all the experience in the world but no qualifications, you're probably going to be in the similar boat of someone needing to take a punt on you.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of kind of languages, then, how key for you when you're looking? Obviously, if you're focusing on UK and Ireland, maybe not so much, but kind of BlueVoyant or in general for sales engineers, how important is it maybe to have an extra language, whether it be like German or French in there, that you're able to kind of rely on?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we spoke on this, I guess prior to doing the session, it was something which I probably neglected to really consider, because my primary focus is the UK and Ireland market. I think obviously if I think of it from our European side of the fence, we've got presence in Germany and the Nordics, Central Eastern Europe. So I remember them saying a few times, like, the amount of different languages in Europe, you sometimes kind of fail to actually realize how many different languages there are. So I know languages is super relevant for my European team, same in Latin America as well. But I would say from a personal perspective, it isn't something which I've ever really given a consideration to, but it's certainly something which is going to be in the back of the mind the next time we go to market.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely see it from a recruitment standpoint where, more and more companies are trying to look, not necessarily now, especially in that startup space, but looking at people with 1 or 2 languages. So when they do come to expand their go-to-market team to Europe, they have that, availability of someone who can kind of step in straight away, instead of it just being a case of, right, actually, we've got to hire again. In terms of kind of looking at it, there's the pre-sales side, but the post-sales side of it, we're seeing more and more kind of people transferring over. Why do you think that is? And kind of what is the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's interesting that there certainly is seems to be a huge influx on that transition. I mean, I think when I first kind of started in the cyber world, I probably kind of was a little bit blind or a little bit naive to what the world of pre-sales or solution architecture was. But I think that there's a huge community kind of coming together in this now, so which is really vibrant and really noisy, I would say, in the marketplace, which a lot of people kind of want to be part of that. So I think that's got a little bit of appeal to it. I would say as well, again, coming from the post-sales world, like, no 2 days are the same now, right? So in post-sales, like, it could be an engagement for 6 months, 12 months, even longer, right? Whereas if you want that, I guess that a little bit of faster paced, something new, quite challenging. Every day is a new day. What's today going to bring? Then I would say that's probably why. Well, that's certainly why I kind of started going more down that road and transitioning away from the consultancy side of things.
Okay, so in terms of say there was someone watching that was that kind of post-sales looking to move into that maybe fast, a bit more dynamic kind of work environment, how would you typically say someone would go about that transition?
Speak to you guys and see what's available. No, I'd say obviously understand the market you're in, right? If obviously from our perspective, so it's either we have a lot of focus on Microsoft and Splunk. So having the level of knowledge as a pre-sales engineer is quite hard, I would say. So that's when we're looking for potentially. I know the last time we hired, we had quite a very specific skill set we were looking for, and we were quite open in the mind that we probably struggled to get a typical sales engineer person or an architect position. An architect, sorry, that's got that skill set. So we knew we'd have to go to either that vendor for someone, or someone which has actually been hands on keyboard deploying that technology to get that level of experience that we needed. So I think it's a bit of a flip as well, from not just post sales people wanting to go into pre-sales. It's actually a change in the hiring strategy as well. Like we were going to market for someone who was actually actively in a consultancy role or in a deployment role. That was the skill set we kind of needed to kind of plug the gap within the team.
Okay, and do you find in terms of kind of more generally speaking for a role, if someone's looking to transition over, do you find that can be something that's done internally, or do you find you're often having to go externally and find those new people for that?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I'm a massive advocate of internal promotion and really growing the people within in the wider business. I think it's a blend between the organization. I mean, sometimes there's pros and cons to both, right? Sometimes it's good to really give that career progression for the internal people, but sometimes having an external hire can bring in some new perspectives, some new insights into what the market's doing or what good looks like elsewhere. So I think it's a case-by-case basis, to be fair.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, I think that kind of wraps up the end of this episode. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Hopefully it's given the viewers kind of a good bit of insight in terms of kind of the soft and hard skills that they can kind of look to progress themselves in to kind of get themselves into a good sales engineering position. So thank you very much.
No worries. Cheers, Sam. Thanks for having us.